Here in the U.S., some states have taken steps to limit the death penalty, but not Texas, which has put more than 500 people to death since capital punishment was reinstated there in 1982.
The Huntsville State Prison in Texas has the busiest execution chamber in the country. VOA's Jerome Socolovsky went there and met the former death house chaplain, a man who has a unique perspective on the death penalty, as Jerome told me when we sat down together. Take a look.
Okay,
There are ghosts in Reverend Carroll Pickett's closet, 95 to be exact.
But this is part of the tapes.
That's the number of inmates put to death while he was chaplain at the Texas State Execution Chamber in Huntsville.
I made the tapes the next day or the next night to get it all out.
He admitted he was nervous, and it showed in quite many ways that he was scared.
You talk about how Reverend Pickett was present during these executions. What exactly was his role as prison chaplain?
He really spent basically the last day with each of these condemned people, and he got to know them pretty well. They got to know him, and he says they all reacted differently to him, and he was basically there until the end. Many of them had questions for him about, is this going to hurt? What's it going to be like the last few minutes? And he was in a position where he often had to reassure them that it wouldn't hurt.
Jerome, you had the opportunity to spend a good amount of time with Reverend Pickett, learning about his experience. What struck you most about his story?
I think, Alex, what struck me the most was how he struggled with his own feelings about the death penalty. While he was a prison chaplain, he was there for 95 executions, and the 33rd execution that I talk about in my story of Carlos de Luna started raising questions in his mind.
He was a baby face. He had big eyes, big brown eyes, and he was innocent. You know, I knew he was innocent. I knew by talking to him and listening to him.
De Luna was convicted for the fatal stabbing of a gas station attendant, but Pickett believes it was a case of mistaken identity. And while he promised De Luna his death would be painless, it was far from that.
Carlos, it was horrible. You know, I couldn't sleep for days and days.
Even as he began to think that capital punishment is wrong, he continued going and keeping his own feelings to himself. He talked about what he called a ministry of presence, that however he felt, he should do God's work and be there with the inmate, with a condemned man or woman right before the execution. Pickett came out against the death penalty after retiring in 1995. He is now a powerful voice in the movement to abolish it.
When they're losing a loved one to the state of Texas.
This video, provided by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, shows the execution chamber where a condemned inmate is strapped down. At 6 p.m., if there's no last-minute injunction, a lethal injection is administered. There were massive protests right here in front of the death house back when Reverend Pickett attended his first execution. Now the death of number 505, Arturo Diaz, draws only a committed core of anti-death penalty activists, Texas Governor Rick Perry. He supports the death penalty and says Texas has never executed an innocent person. Reverend Pickett disagrees.
So I was witness to a murder, but on the names of the state.
His evolution toward being opposed to the death penalty came as a result of questioning of many of the questions that many other Americans have about whether it's effective, whether it really acts as a deterrent, and of course, whether an innocent person has been killed as a result of the death penalty.
And again, that was Jerome Socolovsky, VOA's religion reporter. Reverend Pickett retired in 1996 after spending 15 years in the Texas prison system and witnessing 95 government executions, an international record. He continues to work to abolish the death penalty.